What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 96 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors from all genres. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author, sometimes a returning guest, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a beat, never miss out on an episode. And feel free to browse existing episodes so that you can catch up on a previous interview about a book that you just finished. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to just fuck it all and burn it all to the ground. Just please be mindful around listening ears. So books coming out next week are The Alchemy of Flowers by Laura Resau and Gone to Ground by Morgan Hatch. The Alchemy of Flowers coming out on July 29th. Gone to Ground is coming out on July 31st. Both of those authors are upcoming guests, so I encourage you to check out those book releases. Podcast features for this week, we've got Off Script Podcast and Must Love Books Podcast. I encourage you to look up online, check out their Instagram, and see what they're all about. Please stay tuned every week. I'm going to feature a couple new bookish podcasts for our fellow readers and listeners to check out. Today's episode features a chat with Laura Resau. We're talking about her book, The Alchemy of Flowers. That book is available now. This was such a fun conversation and really a deep and vulnerable conversation with Laura. So please take care of yourself and be mindful of the subject matter because we do get into it, but I also just really enjoyed learning about Laura's journey and how she came up with this book, and it's a really good one. So I hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, here is Laura Resau. So today we've got Laura Resau. We're talking about her book, The Alchemy of Flowers. That book is available on July 29th. Laura, thanks so much for joining me today. This book, oh my God, it was so fun and eerie and heartwarming, and the suspense was done right. The only bone I have to pick with you is making my mouth water with some of your food descriptions, but we'll get into it. I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper into everything you got going on in this story.
Oh, thank you so much, Megan. That makes me happy to hear. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. So to get started, can you share a summary of the book so that people could follow along with the conversation?
Sure. So I've been describing it as a magical modern day version of The Secret Garden for adults set in locked French castle gardens. So it's book club fiction or upmarket fiction with elements of magic, a little bit of thriller, a little bit of horror, a little bit of romance. So a blend of all of those things. And it's about a woman named Eloise who has been through the ringer in Colorado with infertility and miscarriages. Her marriage has ended, and she comes across a very mysterious job ad to be a gardener in the south of France. And what's most appealing to her about this is that no children are allowed on the premises. And she loves children, but after all she's been through, it's painful for her to be around them. So she goes to these gardens, and at first she loves it. It feels like paradise. So she's in amazing lodging. She lives in a gorgeous treehouse. Like you mentioned, there's gourmet food. She has really wonderful, warm coworkers. So she's blissed out with all the magical flowers around and this amazing paradise life. But then she starts noticing there might be a girl in the gardens, and she's not sure if it's a figment of her imagination or what. She also starts to realize that there might be a dark underbelly in paradise. And the dangers escalate to the point where she realizes the girl is in danger, and then her found family is in danger as well. So she has to stand up and fight for this family and find a way to get them out of these gardens. So it is a journey of healing. It's about how do we take the shit that life gives us sometimes and find a way to transform it into something beautiful.
Yeah, I loved that shit into flowers. That was like her little reminder too, like where she was like approached with there's a lot of weird stuff going on, like you said. So she's reflecting on her life and like trying to heal, but that was like the running theme where she had that was her like comfort. It's just no. this is what I'm here for, turning shit into flowers, like making something beautiful out of the mess that we find ourselves in. And so I'm like, I love that too. That was like a running reminder. We'll try to be a little bit spoiler free too. But yeah, I hit all those points because this is not your debut, right? You have a few books published out.
So this is my adult debut, but I have 11
Okay.
books out for kids and teens.
Okay. How I want to talk about that experience. Like how did that go for you switching to like different age groups and big lessons learned, stuff like that?
Yeah, it was a big change because I've been writing for kids and teens for 20 years. So I felt like
Yeah, that's a
I
long
knew that
time.
market really well. I had that voice down. So when I decided to write for adults, I had to explore and find a new voice. And so when I did a rough draft of this book and gave it to my writing group, they told me it sounded kind of young adult. The voice did. It
Mm.
sounded young. So I had to really analyze what's sounding young about it and how do I fix that. I gave myself permission to use maybe more sophisticated vocabulary, and then I gave myself permission to have a few more layers of self-awareness and reflection in a way that I wouldn't necessarily do in my books for younger readers. In those books I might have things feel a little bit more raw and more immediate, moment to moment. So that after I implemented those suggestions and ideas, then the next version had a solidly adult voice, but it was a learning curve. And that was one reason I wanted to go into writing for adults too, is I wanted something new and different. And I wanted to explore different kinds of issues and explore what can I do with my voice that might be different and interesting. So yeah, that was a really big piece of it, but it was really rewarding because I could incorporate a lot of issues that I faced in my own life in a way that I couldn't if I were writing for kids.
Yeah, yeah, and I imagine it was, like, it was challenging, but it was fun for you. A
Mm.
lot like you said, like, you're allowing yourself to let go of some of those constraints that you're so used to writing for a much younger age group. Because I think, like, it's not even just swearing or sex or not necessarily like that, like, you exactly like you said, like, the voice and the messaging, the subject matter, because there are, like, serious potentially triggering content. And that is definitely on adult level reading. And yeah, I totally respect and appreciate that struggle just because you're challenging yourself and you're learning after doing this one thing for so long and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna do it.
Yeah, it was scary. I'll be honest. It was scary because once, if you know you can do something well, it is scary to just take a leap and try something completely different and know that you might not pull it off. So it was a little terrifying, but it was rewarding. And I do feel like I was able to bring a lot of the things I put in my books for kids and teens, I did bring into this book. So there's that sense of magic and whimsy, and there's some kind of fun. There are some secret garden kind of vibes in it. The just that sense of wonder that I think we see in
Yeah.
kids' books. I wanted to bring that into this book as well.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. It was, like, slow to start off, but I think that's just me in general. Whenever I start a new book, I'm like it's my brain getting in the zone, getting used to, like, but because 'cause I'm thinking, like, when's the last time I started a book that almo didn't start off with me getting into it? Once I was able to get into it, oh, I was rooting for her. I was just, like,
Yeah.
rooting for her, and I loved all your other characters and even the messy ones too. I loved what they added to the story and, like, exploring all those other topics. So I always like to ask about the research because it's
Hmm.
so fun to hear authors talk about their experience like falling down rabbit holes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And cuz I imagine like I read the author's note where you some of your personal experiences you did integrate those into the storyline. And so was there any other stuff that you researched just to get more clarification or other ideas and like anything fascinating you
Mhm.
learned, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I love as much as possible doing in-person experiential kind of research. I love any excuse to travel, especially to France. I've been to France a lot before. I have a my French host family from back when I was there in college for a year, and I'm still friends with them. It's nice to have an excuse to go back, but for this book in particular, when I did a research trip there, I was paying special attention to the castles.
Mm.
And specifically, there's one castle that's in the area I envision this book taking place. It's called Lourmarin. And so I did some initial research like online and looked at drone footage, which was really cool. And then actually visited the castle and I was taking notes and taking pictures. And It's a combination that it's so interesting, the architecture in France or really anywhere in Europe, but you have these layers of history. They're like really ancient tribes from thousands of years ago. There's Celtic influence in this area of the south of France. The Romans came. There's just like these layers, and that's reflected in the castle. So you have all these different parts of the castle. In the book, there's the kind of more dangerous medieval part of the castle. And as the climax happens in this turret. And so it was
Mm.
really cool to actually go into this physical location where I envisioned a lot of things playing out. And the gardens, especially, I paid a lot of attention to what flowers were growing there. I wanted to make sure that even though I have magical flowers in this book, I wanted to make sure that they were the kinds of flowers that you would expect to see in the south of France. I started my own flower or medicinal and healing flower garden in my yard, and
Oh,
felt like
wow.
I was bonding with these flowers. I would make like lotions and potions and teas with them. So these are all things that Eloise does in the book. So that was a big piece of it. And then there are some things that I already was doing in my life or knew about in my life that I just was eager to incorporate in a book. Speaking of shit, we have, which is a theme in the book, right? Like how do you turn that into something beautiful like flowers? So we have a beautiful little piece of land up in the Rocky Mountains, about an hour away from our home. And it's completely off the grid. It's a tiny cabin, but we have a composting toilet there. And
Mm.
I was at the composting toilet one day managing the compost, which goes through several stages before it turns into fertile soil. And I was looking at the area on the hillside where we dump the fertile soil that came from the toilet. And I noticed there were beautiful wildflowers growing there. And it just like this big, beautiful metaphor just appeared before me. And I was thinking,
Yeah, yeah.
how do we do this in our own lives? Like, how do we heal? When life hands us shit, what do we do? How do we make it into metaphorical flowers? That was another kind of experiential bit of research that I did.
It is powerful. I imagine you were like a little mini epiphany. You're just, oh, I know it's for anybody. It could be appropriate for someone to take into consideration for any point in their life. In just career, personal life, anything like that. It's just like everybody, we all get handed shit. It's what are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna let some flowers grow out of it, or are you gonna just let it do nothing? It's
Mm-hmm.
how are you gonna? I like turning lemons into lemonade almost, but I like the
Mm-hmm.
term turning shit into flowers much better.
I'm glad we're allowed to curse on your show.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to talk about.
Good.
But yeah,
Yeah.
in the context of the main character, what her transformation has to happen as a result of her infertility and her miscarriages and life just not going the way she planned. But some other kind of some I don't want to give away too much, but cancer comes up in the book. When you're handed a diagnosis, how do you deal with that? How do you heal from it? How do you maybe find some good coming out of that? So there are a number of ways I think readers can connect with that kind of challenge of when life hands you something unexpected, can you be brave and have courage and find some way to make it transformational?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the way that, yeah, exactly. Like you connect with your readers too, because it's like we all go through our own stuff. And I think Eloise, like a lot of people, readers will be able to resonate or relate to her, especially people who have been in similar situation of as yours is with those challenges of trying to build a family and the stress that not only is it on you, and you're here, Eloise was thinking like she's like my body is like literally made to do this and it can't do it, and it's even though you have no control over it, it's like she felt like a failure at it, and she felt like she was like defunct, and it's her marriage took a toll, like all that stuff, because it's definitely it's just there's so much to explore there, and we can go as deep into it as you're comfortable with, but I know that's definitely like a running theme, and also want to explore like how you just navigated sensitive content, like protecting yourself and looking out for yourself. You're almost exposing yourself through your writing and that.
Yeah, it definitely is vulnerable to write about something that is close to your heart that you've been through. And so I went through 5 years of infertility and miscarriages, and we did end up adopting our son from Guatemala. He's 18 now. And for me, that was the happy ending. Like, those, he's the wildflowers that grew out of this whole journey. But when I do look back, I feel like I wouldn't change anything. Just it was hard, but I wouldn't have my son if that hadn't
Yeah.
happened to me. And so I did want to explore that through another character. I had written essays, nonfiction pieces, but I wanted to fictionalize it. I felt that would give me a little bit more freedom. And I love
Yeah.
I love adding magic and myth and story structure. My hope was that I know that when I am reading adult fiction, I do enjoy reading about characters who've had similar struggles to me. I think it's really therapeutic. It makes me feel seen. I mean, there are some books out there that do deal with infertility, even just as a subplot. And I've probably read them like 10 times because it helps,
Mm,
it just helps me feel like I'm not alone. And so I was hoping that the infertility thread, if readers were going through that themselves or miscarriages, that they would feel seen, that they would feel connected. And I have heard back from early readers who did feel that way. And so that's really fulfilling to me. That was one of my dreams with this book. But yeah, I was careful as far as your question about how do you sensitively handle a topic like this. I try and approach it with a sense of compassion and healing, and how can we bring up these hard topics in a way that emphasizes compassion, connection, healing. And so that kind of helped to guide me as far as like how much I was giving. And I also knew like I wanted this book to be a real pleasure to read. Like I wanted to be a sensual pleasure. Like you were saying, I wanted people's mouths to be watering over the food. I wanted them to
yeah.
smell the flowers and to just feel the breeze and hear the cicadas. I wanted it to be like a wish fulfillment, gorgeous, kind of fun, immersive setting. And I felt like that could counterbalance some of the tougher emotional issues and keep the focus on healing and keep it
Yeah.
feeling heartwarming and uplifting rather than dragging people down.
Yeah, because the overall definitely because it's also, like, the mood, right? Because there is something possibly nefarious going on, like, overall in the area, in the region of the facility and on the grounds, and so you've got that seriousness there, and then the mystery there, and then you've got the seriousness of the sensitive subject matter of her struggles. And then yeah, it's like you're surrounded by just beautiful garden and like a beautiful architecture of this castle and with a swoony handyman and I can't imagine. And then plus like you shoot like with no electricity or no reception, no cell service or anything like that, where it's like you really are forced to just be in the moment and be in the situation and to just pay attention to everything around you. So just like balancing all that, just making it all fit together and make sense because it could be really tricky to like to
Yeah.
do that and to make it make sense and to without interrupting the flow of the story and try to bring your readers along for little shifts in moods and stuff like that because there's the cute quiet moments between her and Raphael juxtaposition with the straight up like scary statues
Yeah.
and the mysterious don't go out during dusk or whatever and it's like
Uh,
why and but then there's like funny moments where she just has she fully utilizes the shower and it's just stuff like that where I love it because I even wrote it in my notes. I'm like, oh my god, she's rediscovering her sexuality, yay. I was like, just because all of that is so important. It's another thing that takes a toll when
mm-hmm.
you're trying to conceive and it's just it becomes this routine, it becomes it's no passion and it becomes like an obligation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm totally sensitive to that, so it's like all these little moments and how they fit together. I think just you did a great job, and I imagine I know it was really challenging for you, but I thought you did it very well, and I finished this book I think in 3 days. It was so enjoyable, you know what I
Oh,
mean? So
thank you.
I appreciate because I could tell that you did pour yourself into sure, and for me as a reader I appreciate that as well.
Ah, thank you so much for saying that. And thanks too for pointing out the challenge in fitting together these pieces. Because you're right, there are different types of moods and tones. And earlier, what you had said about it having a slow build at the beginning, that was a challenge too, because I wanted her to go to paradise and feel like it was paradise and be invested in the people there, be invested in the flowers, to want to stay. So I couldn't introduce too much creepy stuff early on. Because if I introduced the super creepy stuff right away, like she would get the hell out of there. She would
Yeah.
not, she would just, or the reader would be like, "You're an idiot, get out of there."
Yeah.
So I had to, my editor recommended I use horror story structure. This is not a horror story, it has some elements, but she recommended I use that to maybe show Eloise getting there and then just having like hints of strange things happening, hints of, and maybe having the reader have more hints at things maybe being a little dark and eerie, until the point when Eloise realizes what's going on. She's already so
Mhm.
invested in that place, she's going to stay. But that was such a hard line to walk. You're totally right. And then it's funny what you said about the shower scene, because I dug myself into this hole as far as so I'm a children's and young teen writer. So I hadn't written sex scenes before of any type, really. And I realized that once I got into drafting this, I realized, okay, part of getting over infertility and miscarriages is starting to find pleasure in your body again and starting to find joy in
Yeah.
sex again. Because if you, after years of this, you associate it with failure and pain and death and disappointment. And a big part of her journey was reconnecting with herself and becoming friends with her body again and letting go of anger she had toward her body. And yeah, I wanted her to have a self pleasure scene before she had a love scene with the swoony handyman.
I appreciated that too,
But I was
'cause
like,
I don't
yeah,
it adds to the fun of it, and it does add it's the fun and it's the positivity coming back.
that's what I was
Which is exactly
hoping.
like how you said, yeah, because it does it again adds to the balance, but no, I like it. I'm a sucker for romance, I think
Mm,
a lot of people are, but when it comes to me, like, I do enjoy, like, the more intimate scenes because it does help you give you insight into the character with themselves and the development of the relationship between the couple, and I
mhm,
think intimacy is a super important part of that. It's just the raunchiness of it or how graphic you wanna be, that's just, like, whoever that's your personal preference, wrong with it, but at least in my like for me, I enjoy a little bit of like extra stuff and
mhm,
but so, like for your like in the way that you wrote it, and it did fit well because exactly like you said, like she had to allow herself to explore that part of herself again because it was painful or it was just monotonous or it was like an obligation and it wasn't passionate anymore and she wasn't
mhm.
like finding the fun, the enjoyment anymore. And then when she did, and it was like really funny because he then Raphael asked like the next day, he was like, "Oh, did you use it? Did you use the shower head?" And Mina's there
I had fun
I
writing
love
that
it.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so innocent. What is he really asking me?
Yeah, I definitely wanted there to be some humor to offset some of the more serious things too and to bond
Yeah.
them together in fun ways.
It was. I appreciated that, and then again, it's yeah, it was just like exactly how you said it was like a stepping stone to her process and finding that. Because yeah, it's like I said, I was rooting for her, and I'm all about women owning themselves and owning their
Mhm.
sexuality and just becoming as self-aware as possible, whether
Mhm.
that's like mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm
Mhm.
all about that. So I appreciate it when it's like in the books that I read and the characters that I read. Because again, I must say I'm a sucker for everything, but I'm also a sucker for character growth. I love that when readers or authors can find new ways to demonstrate that. It's so
Mm.
fun and so cool.
Cool. Thanks for saying that. I was nervous with the various sex scenes, and I did, like you say, I wanted them to contribute to the character growth and the relationship growth. And then Raphael has his stuff going on. So the sex was meaningful to him in unexpected ways too, and his own growth. Yeah. So that was my goal. I'm glad it worked for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's like it's safe in a way where I would recommend this book to my mom. I feel
Uh-huh.
comfortable recommending this book to my mom. You know what I mean? Like I there's like a spectrum that I keep an eye on. I'm like I cuz my mom loves to read too and I've lended her a handful of books. So I'm like this is in that category on that end where I'm like there's still kind of stuff in there but my mom's not going to be clutching her pearls or getting uncomfortable or anything like that. So that's like where it is. That range
That is
for
very
sure.
well said. And I have to say, my mom she's always one of my first beta readers. And so she always gives me great feedback and great suggestions. So I don't think I could get much racier than this because
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I can hand it to her. Yeah.
Do you have the same pen name too for both from your previous from writing the children's middle grade? It's the same pen name?
Yeah, so it's just my real name and I do use it for both. And I did at first when I decided to go into the world of adult fiction, I thought that I would get a pen name because I didn't want my young readers to get confused and pick up a book for adults. And I did talk to my publisher about this and asked them what they thought. And they actually wanted me to keep my real name. They felt like I already had a platform, I already had readers. And I've been writing for so long that some of the
Yeah.
readers that read my book as teens, like they're
There you
now
go. Yep.
grown women.
Yeah.
And yeah, and some of them are really excited to read this. So they just encouraged me to keep my name and then just be really crystal clear on my website what the target audience was. So what I decided to do. We'll see how it goes. I feel like if you read the back copy, it's probably going to be pretty clear that it's not meant for teens or
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, in general, I think publishers can probably do, maybe they just need to they need to keep up with the landscape of, because there's so much like self-publishing too, but it's just, I just feel like, I don't know, you want to call it smut or like R-rated content, adult romance. Like I'll say the adult romance, it's like doors wide open. There's
Right.
details, all of that. So I think but a lot of them are like cartoon covers almost. It's like
Mm,
got these characters or the character art, and it could be a little misleading. So I think,
mm,
yeah, there could be something done just
mm,
to, so people know it's
mm.
just, yeah, this might look like Disney adjacent, but it's not at all. These cute characters get it on. Like, don't.
Yeah. No, that's a great
It's
point. I like that idea about having some kind of consistent way of just giving people a heads
because we do
up.
have like film and TV, right?
That's
I
a great
imagine
point.
it's like it can't be that hard unless you
Hmm.
get it just I think it would just depends on who's the authority on that. We all have different tastes, right?
True.
It's like people look at either for example, like a dark romance, it's like the taboo,
Yeah.
kind side of it. And it's just some people are like, oh no, thank you. And on the shopping list, I'm into this. Like there's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a checklist that things that I do. So like
Right.
I think there's a way, as long as you're trusting, for now, I guess you just have to trust like either authors being transparent
Hmm.
or other readers. Because I talk to authors. I'm not like genre specific. I all authors of all sorts of genres, and I've talked to middle grade too. It's just I just say, oh, sorry if I swear, or like age group is like younger, it's a little 18 under. So yeah, but it's exactly it's so I think it's just you just have to, when I recommend books, like my best friend, for example, I know she's like a little more open-minded. She doesn't like only read romance. She doesn't only read women's fiction. Like I could give her a suspense or a thriller and she could be into that too. Or I give her like, I think we both read the same nonfiction years ago and that was still cool to talk about. So it's things like that where I think people just either have to trust other readers or trust the author fully, like, hey, I have these things, these themes, watch out for yourself because
Hmm.
this is gonna be in there,
Yeah.
and it's, yeah, I think it's like something to keep in mind. But 'cause I was thinking of the more I read, I'm like, and the more like people who aren't in maybe the book community or even who are in the book community, they come down on people who are like, oh, you're just reading porn. I'm like, first of all,
Mhm.
it's so stupid, and second of all, so what? I'm like, who cares? Am I bothering you? We're not plastering scenes like for 2 pages of the scene like online. And if people do, it's like, don't follow them. You could hit
Yeah.
block or unsubscribe or unfollow. Like you have so much power
Mhm.
yourself to
Mhm.
control what comes across your feed. And it's just, so I just don't see, in general, I tend to live my life unbothered, but I'm just, when I see like some of the conversations about it, I'm like, it makes me happy because of people who are like being more open and honest, they
Mm.
like, and and then they find their people, they find their
Yeah.
community of being like, yes, me too.
Yeah.
But then there's also the other end of it where there's like, oh my God, like I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I'm like, these characters are in college.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know. It's either read reviews or ask people like, is this going to be too much for me? Or is this going
Mm.
to be, it's just use common sense. I feel, I don't know. And I feel like people are
Yeah.
just, I could be more vulgar about it, but I'm not, we'll keep it to the point at hand. But we got off on a tangent because I was like, yay for Eloise.
But no, I think those are great observations and great points. And with this book, I don't think it was in the arc, but with the final version, we do have a note at the beginning of the book that's just like a heads up on the content
Yeah.
and saying there's going to be infertility and miscarriage loss, and just to give people a heads up. If they're in the
Yeah.
headspace where they are okay with that, then they can keep reading. But if they're not there, they don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. That's no, and that's so important, and I think I like that shift too. I like how more people are becoming more aware of that because it's yeah, it's don't wanna you don't want them to have a bad time. You want them to have a great time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. We talked about it earlier. What are the this is a two-parter. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with the most enjoyable. I love atmosphere and setting and really multisensory details. So it was fun for me to write that. The description of the tree house, they all have the different coworkers have different interesting forms of lodging that are off the grid. There's a caravan, there's a yurt, there's the tree house. That was really fun for me to write, to the point where my agent and editor were like, you need to scale back on the setting stuff. Like, you need to cut it in half, do some major trimming. So I had to like reluctantly go through and cut that, but I knew I was going to have to do it. So that was probably the funnest to do. And I always remember like all the different meals my French mom, so she's like my host family mom. I was remembering all the amazing meals that she would make. And I have
Yeah,
a friend who is a wine expert in France. And so I
nice,
had her read the book and she did all the wine pairings for each of the meals.
perfect.
It was so much fun. As far as the most challenging part, I would say it had to do with the pacing. So you were mentioning like kind of the slow build beginning. I found it really challenging my early drafts. Everything happened like the last 50 pages. My agent and editor were like, okay, you can't expect people to stay with you for 275 pages. And you need to move some of that, some
Yeah,
of that kind of like really distinct, creepy, dangerous stuff. Like you need to move it forward. So I had to do some rearranging, and I had to really think carefully about what could I put like in the middle of the book that wouldn't make her like just get the heck away. So that was probably the most challenging, was the pacing, since this is a genre blend. So I needed to have some
yeah.
basic romance beats in there, like some conflict in their romance, and but then that attraction. And then I had to have, there were almost some thriller aspects and horror aspects. So it was a challenge to like blend these genres together using a pace that would be satisfying to readers.
Oh, yeah. And it yeah, it's I don't I felt on it I felt fine, like, being honest in that aspect because it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's really common in a lot of books. It's can you improve upon that? Is there a purpose? Is there a method to your madness? It's yeah, the
Mhm.
pacing is slow for a little bit in the beginning for a reason, but then exactly like you trickled in little but for a lot of the action happening in the last 50 pages, that's like almost in every book, and a good suspenseful book
Yeah.
where I'm just like, I think, yeah, whenever I do this, I always take notes when I'm reading. So like I can kind of, it helps me look at a big picture, take a step back and have notes to talk to you. But it's really funny because almost like all the books I take notes about, it's like the last 10 or so lines, it's like it becomes more unhinged because I'm like, what's going on? I was like, oh shit, like, it's like, wait, what? And like 14 question marks sometimes, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm confused too. I'm like, Ellie, wait.
Yeah, it's fun because the climax of my book, my editor, it wasn't in my earlier version, it wasn't like quite so heightened. And she's, look, Laura, I want you to have a full gothic explosion, literally. So I was like, okay, thank you for that permission.
You're like,
So
all right.
it was fun to like really let myself go wild with that climax. And yeah, it was fun for me to write. It's a little more intense than most of the
Yeah.
climaxes that I've written in my other books, but I had fun with it.
It was, yeah, because I imagine the pacing also can be it's a challenge with adult writing for adults versus writing for kids. Like, it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole different animal of pacing for adults and pacing for kids because it's just brain development, attention span, engagement, interest. It's yeah, so I would say for your debut and I could tell you were intentional and I could also tell that towards the last 50 pages you had a lot of fun. I could tell that you were like, "All right, let's go." So I
Uh,
was like, "Ah, like what's going on?" I was like, "Wait a second." I was like, "Antoinette, what?"
she was a really interesting character to write. I
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said before, like I like her as a character. I like all messy characters, antagonists. I love what they bring to the story, and it's also part of it's like I'm always gonna forgive female rage. I'm just always
Yeah.
gonna
She's got some good
you
reasons
know
for the rape. Yeah.
exactly. So
Mhm.
I'm 100%. So that's why I'm always like, "No, like, fuck it, burn it all to the ground." I'm like so that's why I was like, "No, do what you gotta do for your story to make sense." Because I imagine there could have been maybe a couple different ways you could have gone. I don't know, did you, like, play with different endings, or was it, "No, this feels right from the get-go?"
I did play around with a lot of different endings actually. And I'm trying to think of how I can phrase it without giving too much away. But like in a very early ending, I just went on for 50 pages about what their life looks like afterwards. And it just was like too much and unnecessary. And my writing group just was like, you know what, just cut that. So I did. And I just ended up making a short epilogue that kind of gives you
Yeah.
a sense of what their lives are going to be like afterwards, so that I tend to overwrite. So a lot of my process in revising is like cut, 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 like scale back
I
to
would
the
say, like,
essential.
sometimes it's easier to cut back than it is to add on, but with writing, I almost would say it's the opposite, to cut things out,
Yeah.
and it's maybe a little easier to add more, to expand.
Hmm.
Because that's yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And I like for you because it's your baby, and like I wanna keep
Yeah.
all this is important information. Like
And you're like, oh, I like that phrase, or I like that metaphor, or that's fun banter, or whatever. So it is, you do have to, yeah, kill your darlings and then just move
yeah.
on.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna do this to you. What advice do you have for Eloise? I would say maybe what advice do you have for Raphael too, if you wanna explore that, but for Eloise mostly.
So I think for Eloise, for especially for the first part of the book or the first and middle part of the book, I think just trust that things will be okay. Like it doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of messy emotions, but just trusting that things are going to work out, things are going to be okay. She telling her you are going to have a family, you are going to have a meaningful relationship with a child, and just that reassurance. And that's the kind of reassurance I wish I could have given myself looking back with my
Mm.
journey, reassuring myself it's okay, you're not going to be childless and bitter and angry for the rest of your life. Like
Would she say old crone? Oh, I
yeah,
love
exactly. You're not going to just be a mean old crone without friends. You're going to go through this, and you will be able to figure out a way to make your own happy ending in one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I like that too. Cause yeah, like I said, I was rooting for her, and your own experiences came across through her as well. I could sympathize with her pain and her
Mhm.
struggles, and 'cause I'm fortunate that I have 2 kids, and we didn't it happened
Mhm.
like how it's supposed to, I guess I should say. I don't know how else
Mhm.
to be sensitive about saying I have 2 kids and it's as usual, I
Yeah,
guess. And
yeah.
but we had my brother-in-law and his wife, they were trying for 3 years in vitro and all that, and they finally and now they have a boy, but there's a 5-year
Mm.
difference in between, like, their 2
Yeah.
because they started trying again, and there's, like, a big age gap now. But it's just but they also joke about it, like, because it's like second kid energy,
Mhm.
where he's a little bit more difficult, he's more outward, and he's just got a little bit more attitude, and they're like, "You're the expensive one. You're like you're supposed to be like premium. You're supposed to be like premium top shelf, like child." Like so I just like find a way to like be humorous about it. But like
Yeah.
I was sympathetic to that. Like I can't really relate to it, but yeah, like I can there's a part of it like just of motherhood, like the
Mhm.
sisterhood of motherhood. It's
Mhm.
like trying to conceive and feeling yeah like just going through all the emotions of it, like how come this is, and try not to compare yourself to other families experience. So that's what's I felt for her, even though I appreciate how vulnerable you were allowing yourself to be in telling Eloise's story,
Thank
for sure.
you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I feel like most of us know somebody, either a friend or a extended family member who's gone through infertility. And I was hoping that readers would be able to relate maybe in that way. And that maybe it could also help develop some empathy for, oh, this is what my friend was going through, or oh, maybe this is how
Yeah.
I can be helpful to my friend who just had a miscarriage, or something like that. Yeah, I think books can really foster empathy in that way and like unexpected connections, like you're saying.
Yeah. Just curious, so your son's 18, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy to
I have 2
me.
kids, so, like I know, I was gonna say, like, my nephew, he's just graduated 8th grade, and my son is going into 3rd grade. I'm like, "When did that
I
happen?" You know?
know,
So
it goes so
it's so
quickly.
I
It
know, it's
really
crazy. So,
does.
like, I just I'm even like yeah, you forget that I like, we 'cause adults, things once we hit a certain point we stop changing even though it's like time goes by. Children, they grow so much in like a shorter
Yeah.
amount of time and you're like, "Wait, holy shit." Like when you're taller than me now, why?
I know.
I was just curious, did you always just want one child? Did you ever explore options of adopting another one, just like giving him a sibling or anything like that? I'm just curious, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think if I could snap my fingers and if I could have had 2 kids, then yes, we would have done that. But so in our case, like for 5 years I was pretty obsessed with trying to have a child. I was still writing books, I was publishing books. Like I felt very fulfilled in my career. I was teaching immigrant ESL to immigrants. I had a very fulfilling life professionally, but I really had a lot of, I guess I just had a lot of stress, like constantly trying to have a baby. And then finally, we did adopt our son from Guatemala, which was wonderful. And I guess at that time, I felt like, okay, like my dream has come true. We have our son. And then at that time, they stopped, like right after our son came, they stopped adoptions to Guatemala. And then they also
Okay.
stopped like shortly after that they stopped like Ethiopia adoptions and a lot of other international adoptions were stopped. And I did think if I try to go through the paperwork for another adoption, what if I get through to a certain stage and then they say no, we're shutting things down, or no,
Mm,
you can't adopt this child, because that does happen pretty frequently with adoption.
yeah.
Is all kinds of things can go wrong with the paperwork. And I, like Eloise in the book, like she actually tried to adopt, and she did have her heart set on this child, and then the paperwork fell through, and that was like almost as devastating as a miscarriage. And I felt if we tried to adopt another child, like I didn't think my heart could handle it if it didn't work out, and I just didn't want to set myself up for more pain at that point in my life. So at that time I was just like, okay, we have our son, he's our dream come true. Finally I can let go of all my stress and anxiety, and I can just focus on like having a happy life with him and my husband
Yeah.
and my books and my teaching. So that just felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder to just accept that.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about, "Oh, should we try for a third?" And I'm
Mhm.
it was, "You know what? We have it pretty good."
Mhm.
And it's we're getting in this routine of, "Oh, they're both potty trained, and they're
Uh-huh.
both, like, no diapers, and
Yeah.
we're not like, we can give away all this crap that we don't need anymore, like the baby stuff." And it's I was even saying, because we were open-minded about it for a while, and I was just like going to my husband, I was like, "So, what if just imagine I was like, us, we're just like chilling, doing our thing, either watching a movie together or watching TV, or just we're like, I'll read and the boys will be like on their screen time or whatever." I'm like, what if there was an infant? Like just right, like just imagine how we're just chilling here and we got like a good, like calm,
Uh-huh.
like vibe going on, and then there's just an infant. Like,
It's a
yeah.
diaper to
Like,
change. Or, yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
That's,
lot.
yeah.
It's a lot, and I'm like and I always wanted a girl, but I was like, I got 2 boys, and I'm like, the same thing. If of course, I would love if like, I would love anything that I produced, but I
Right.
was just like, "Man, if it's a 3rd boy, I would just be laying on the ground in defeat, like, every day." I would just it's already the Wild West out here, like, it's ridiculous. So people say, "Oh, boys are easier." I'm like, "When?" Because right now, it's just like WrestleMania half the time, and I'm, like, repeating myself, telling them to keep their hands to themselves, stop screaming, and just to be like, "You oh, so like, he hit me, like, he hit
Uh,
me." I'm like, "You guys are messing with each other, apologize now." I'm like, "No, apologize to your brother, apologize to your brother." I'm like, "Just no, 'cause when you mess with him, he's gonna come at you, he's gonna do it right back. It's don't come and tattle. Don't be a tattletale. You guys are both doing it. Acknowledge the steps, the events that happened that led to you getting a ball thrown in your face." You know what I mean? Like,
That's
it's just
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's a bit.
interesting. I have friends who, like one of my best friends has 2 boys, and I think she could relate very closely to what you're saying. But it's been
Yeah.
interesting with my son because he's actually so similar to me in so many ways. He's a musician.
That's cute.
Yeah, he's a songwriter. He's in a band. He produces music, and I feel like when he's writing a song, he goes through a very similar creative process to my process. So we just have an incredible creative bond that way. And
Yeah.
I think since he never had a sibling, he never had that combative energy that you get with a sibling. And I think in a lot of ways, sometimes this happens with only children. They're almost like mini adults. So he always just felt really
Yeah.
comfortable
Yeah.
with adults. All of
Yeah.
our friends are like, wow, your kid can make great conversation. And it definitely has its benefits. I think it would be fun if he had a little buddy to wrestle around with when he was younger. But I think at the same time, there were a lot of unexpected benefits and joys to just having
Yeah.
that close relationship with the child and
Exactly.
that bond.
You found yeah, it's like I imagine maybe yeah, it's like kind of the energy that you're feeding off on him process or he's whatever even if you're not directly, like, interacting or guiding him, like, he's still feeding off of what kind of the he's feeding off what you're the stage that you're setting up, and he's feeding off of that.
Mm.
That's really cool and beautiful that we got 2 artists, 2 creators, and you can totally relate to each other that way. I think that's so fun.
Yeah.
So did you speak 3 languages? You speak French and Spanish or
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
do you speak with him? Does he know any languages? Like
Yeah, so he speaks Spanish, not as much as I do. I lived in Oaxaca for a few years, and with my work as an ESL teacher, I just speak Spanish all the time with
yeah.
students and friends. So he did go to a bilingual immersion elementary school. So at that
Okay,
time, he
perfect.
definitely was like more immersed in Spanish. But then as a teenager, he lost some of that because he just wasn't every day exposed to it.
If you don't lose it, use it, you lose
That's
it,
so
like
true. So he has a great Spanish accent. He understands a lot. Like when we go to Latin America or Spain, he can hold his own with
right.
conversation, but he's not able to have really in-depth conversations in the way that I
He
am.
might not add it on his resume per se, like,
Right.
maybe with some formal education, it would start to come back to him for sure, but yeah, no,
Exactly.
I like conversant yeah, exactly, like, I'm like that too, I'm
Mm.
Mexican, but, like,
Yeah.
my mom was very Americanized because
Yeah.
her mom was like, "No, we're speaking English, we're American,"
Yeah.
and it's a
Mhm.
shame,
It
but it's
is.
also so common,
It
and
was so
not just with,
common
like,
that
not just with
generation.
Spanish speaking, like, people from a lot of different countries that come here as, like, 1st generation, 2nd generation, they have to
Mm.
assimilate and stuff like that, but I grew up, like I understand a lot, but I just grew up, like, hearing it here and there in restaurants for so long, and I worked
Yeah.
and then I did go to, like, school for it, and I feel like, oh, I wish that I continued formal education on it, like, I would have at least majored in it or whatever, but, I'm like, "Okay, Duolingo here and there," you know? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm just, like,
Yeah.
curious about I think it's just so interesting whoever is coming here, what they know, and then also just, like, Americans like us and, like, you use your educational experience to go explore the world and immerse yourself in their cultures too. And
Mhm.
so that's why some of that stuff it's just so interesting to me. I can appreciate it too. But it's also even people who come here and start learning English, it's the same thing. They can understand a lot.
Yeah.
They just don't speak it that well. They just don't have the confidence.
That's
And
a
so
huge
it's just
piece of it. Huge
yeah.
piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Exactly.
I find languages fascinating and culture fascinating. And yeah, you're right. People have all different situations as far as who in their extended family does speak another language. And I have found it to be a really great way to bond with people, to maybe have conversations with people you normally wouldn't hear their stories firsthand. And I feel like it's really
Exactly.
special and it's a really big privilege to be able to have that open line of communication through their own language.
Absolutely, because there is, yeah, that added camaraderie or that added, like, that they feel comfortable, and there's just, like, a little layer of trust there because it's, "Oh, like, you're making the effort," and whenever I go, like, to another country, I try to learn the language at least just
Mhm.
to 'cause I think it's so interesting to see like, when I went to Germany, I picked up some German, I tried to, and then but then, like, they 'cause they it's, like, formal versus hearing it in conversation. Because like, the person I think I went to the store, like, just to get some food or something, and she was like, "Das alles?" And she's English?
Oh.
Because I kinda just looked at her, and then I was like, "Wait, what am I doing? I know that it just took me a minute to, like,
Right.
register, and
Yes.
I was like, "No," and I was like, "That's das alles, that's all? That's how you say it?" She's
Uh-huh.
like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay."
Uh,
'Cause it's like, I'm gonna show an interest, I'm gonna show my effort because I don't
yeah.
wanna be like another stupid American. I just
Yeah.
and plus, yeah, it's just it is a part of and then but it's really funny because German, it's kinda is really close to English, and then when I went to Italy with my husband's family, I started trying to learn Italian, and it's very close to Spanish,
Uh-huh.
so it was, like, easy to pick up on a lot of things, just identifying the rules and stuff.
Right.
But then when we went to Ireland, even though they all speak English over there and the Gaelic is a dying language, I still tried to learn some, and
Oh,
it's just
really? Oh my
so
gosh.
difficult because how
Wow.
it's spelled, it's not like how it's spelled is not at all how it's pronounced.
Yes, that
Like,
baffles me when I see words written in Gaelic. It totally baffles
I
me.
know.
Wow, good for
I was
you.
like yeah, I tried, and I
That's
couldn't
great.
I could, like, maybe do a few phrases, but it's also even just, like, the order of the words. It's if you say, "I have a it literally translates to, like, "The dog is at me," and it's like
Oh,
it
wow.
kind of makes I go down a rabbit hole. I'm like, "Oh, how
Yeah.
is that the implications of, like, how you have conversations and what does that mean?" You know, it's like,
Yeah.
"The dog is at me." Do I possess the dog? No,
Right.
this dog is with me, and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay." I
Like a
mean, you
whole
grow up
different
learning in a
yeah.
certain way.
It's like a
Exactly,
different worldview
exactly.
altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, some of that stuff is, like, so cool and fun. So, no, that's just, like, we got off on this tangent. I was just curious because I think that's so cool that you were, like, you went and studied abroad and you lived there and you immersed yourself there and in different places and you kept up with it, and that's what I love the fact that your son had that immersive available to him. I think
Mhm.
that's also really cool, and it's like, like so many other countries, especially in Europe, they all know how to speak, like, at least 2 languages. Like, they almost
Yeah.
English. So it's like, why wouldn't I don't know. We're just Americans are a little slow, and I think the fact not to go too much into it, but I think the fact that sometimes it's just there's so many ropes and
Mm,
bureaucracy and
mhm.
chefs too many cooks in the kitchen. It's just like
Yeah.
it takes a long time to change and and it's gonna take a few generations if we ever went in that direction, which I think we should because we're not only what I think like 10% of the world speaks English or something like
Mm.
the center of the universe. Like we don't
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it can be really mind expanding to speak another language. And because it does give, like you were saying with the Gaelic thing, it gives you some clues to how they might even see the world differently than you. And I find that so interesting. And I'm really proud of my son because he is going to do his junior year abroad in Valencia, Spain. And yeah,
Ooh.
he's doing Berkeley Music School and they have a campus there. And so he loves Spain. He's really excited to go there. So
Oh,
I'm
that's so
yeah, so
fun.
I think his Spanish will all come back to him, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, hopefully
He's
he'll
just gotta learn how to like the way they speak it, right?
it's a
Like they
little
have to
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, exactly, and it reminds me because I imagine he has, like, brown skin and
Mhm.
he's him to have certain language skills where and now so he's, gotta take
Uh-huh.
dust off the language there. He's so fun. That's exciting for you too. Were you
Yeah.
like, "Could I come with?" Like
Oh, absolutely. Definitely gonna be visiting a lot.
I know, that's so fun. Okay, so let's see, what is next for you? Are you working on anything that you can talk about?
I am actually every morning is the time when my brain works best. So every morning I've been doing revisions on my next book. So it's coming also with my same publisher with Harper Muse and it's going to be here May 2026 is the tentative date. It's called The River Muse and we're just doing revisions right now. I'm at that really messy stage where I had to tear the book apart and now I'm trying to
Oh,
put it back together again and we're working on the cover. We've had a few drafts of the cover so far. It's like really vibrant and magical. This book is
is it
set
like going back to children's or middle grade? Is that
it's
yeah.
actually adults.
Adult? Okay,
Yeah, it's the
cool.
second in this 2-book deal with Harper Muse. So it is adult. It has a similar vibe to Alchemy of Flowers in that it's set in the south of France, rural setting, little bits of magic, a healing journey, but it's got completely different characters and different type of magic. So it was really fun to write and I feel like some of the things I learned from my first book I'm implementing
Yeah.
into the second one and yeah, it's a really fast production schedule. Like I am writing this thing faster than I've ever written anything before. But it's exciting to see a lot of times in publishing it takes years and years. So it's exciting that this is actually happening at a really fast pace. A little
Yeah,
scary, but
yeah.
also I'm happy about it.
You after writing this one, you're like, "I could take on the world. What's next?" You're like, "I'll do it again."
That's what I try to tell myself to
Yeah.
like combat my self-doubt, but
Yeah, yeah, like, give yourself a little pep talk, "Don't
right.
worry, just this yeah, every morning, you're like, "Laura, you're a bad bitch, let's do this."
Like literally I have that is my process is I give myself a pep talk in my notebook every single day.
Perfect.
You can do this.
Oh,
You can
I
do
love
this.
the notebook too, like,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Mhm.
That's so cute. I love it. Yeah, whatever you gotta do, you gotta
Mm.
do. Okay, so Laura Resau,
You
what
pronounced it right.
Yay! Where can we find you online and on social media?
So I spend most of my social media time on Instagram. So that probably is the best place. It's just at Laura Resau. And then I also pop into Facebook. Again, it's just at, I think, author Laura Resau or Laura Resau author. But all of that you can find on my website, which is just lauraresau.com. And yeah, I love hearing from readers. So I always answer my emails, I always respond to social media messages. Yeah, feel free to reach out anytime.
Perfect. So, Laura Resau, The Alchemy of Flowers, that book is available on July 29th. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, for being so open and honest and generous with your answers. And like I said, I'll recommend this book to I mostly got a kind of like gothic feel to it. It is hard to put it in one category, but I would still like recommend, like I said before, I recommended this to my best friend. I'll recommend this to my mom. I'll recommend it to so many people who are open to that balancing act, and it's so worth it. So yeah, and
Yeah.
if and when you're ready to market and promote your next book, your next title, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat again.
Oh, thank you so much, Megan. I loved our conversation and I will definitely reach out again. Thank you so much.
And there you go. That was Laura Resau talking about her book, The Alchemy of Flowers. That book is available on July 29th. Check out the show notes where you can find links where to purchase the book and where to find Laura online and on social media. While you're online and on social media, please find Cantina Book Club and give me a follow as well and a subscribe so that, like I said earlier at the top of the show, you can read a book 6 months from now and find the author still waiting for you to listen to on this podcast. So a follow and a subscribe would be really helpful to me and really helpful for you if you're ever catching up on your reading lists. If you need book recommendations, please check out cantinabookclub.com. I'm always releasing book reviews on all sorts of genres. And if you really do feel a certain type of way and really do enjoy the work that you're reading or listening to, go ahead and hop on to Goodreads and Amazon and give the writers in reading a review. It really does help them out. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.